Welcome to our coding overview session for October 18th. I'm Becca Munson. I'm part of the EdTech team, and I appreciate you joining me today as we look over coding and discover many resources for integrating and utilizing in the classroom. So let's get started with a short video to set the stage for coding.
Proud of you, son. GE. Manufacturer.
Well, that's why I dug this out for you.
It's your grandpappy's hammer, and he would have wanted you to have it.
It meant a lot to him.
Yes, GE makes powerful machines, but I'll be writing the code that will allow those machines to share information with each other. I'll be changing the way the world...
You can't pick it up, can you? Go ahead. You can't lift the hammer.
It's okay, though. You're going to change the world.
Just pick up the hammer.
I don't need it.
Pick up the hammer. Pick it up.
Although this video has some humor to it and is obviously selling a product, what it does discuss behind the scenes is the impact and belief that coding can change the world, and that coding in a sense is all around us. So if you think of our iPhones to a GE product, all of those things require coding and understanding coding to create. Codeorg is an organization that I'll refer to several times in this presentation, and they have released nationwide information as well as state information about the importance of computer programming and providing opportunities for computer science in the classrooms. As you can see in Kansas, we have many open computing jobs, but our number of computer science graduates is much smaller. Studies even show that making students aware of coding at some point in their K-12 career opens up opportunities that they never would have thought of when they do think of careers. And not only is the coding language important, but it also does provide opportunities for improving that growth mindset in our students by trying something, learning it, trying it again, maybe failing a few times, repeating the process over and over to get to the final result. And so it obviously has problem solving and critical thinking skills within it as well that are very valuable for our students. So let's look at code. And when we say code, a lot of times I hear teachers go, oh my gosh, that just sounds like a language I've never heard of. What does it look like? And usually what you think of is the area on the right, which, yes, this is very intimidating. But most of the coding resources that are for students and for teachers start with what we see as blocks over here on the left. And these blocks, when you combine them, create a series or sequence of events that allow either an avatar or a robot to move. And so what's really cool and what's really neat for students to see is if I put the sequence of steps together, I can make something move and do the things that I want it to do. And that in turn is what is behind to make this type of coding over here. So eventually students may, if they really dive into coding, get to the right side, but they're also seeing and finding the process of when maybe something doesn't work, rearranging the blocks to make it go. So here is an example of a site, Scratch. There's also Scratch Junior app on the elementary innovation spaces and DLC carts. Using a little cat, sprite, or avatar, you can see the blocks here. When the sprite is clicked, it's going to say hello for 2 seconds. And then it's going to forever repeat the following steps to change color, move steps, play the drums, move backwards, play the drums again, and then it just keeps repeating. So these are just blocks that are put on a canvas, blocks are already created for students. They just have to determine which blocks they want to combine to make the cat move. So let's see an example in action. And here's just a screenshot video that I created to show you the process. So for example, this is a canvas where all the blocks are clicked, and you can see the little sprite or avatar moving over here on the left, following what the blocks want it to do. So here's the, what you could say, the preview pane, and here are the canvas for the steps. Let's see a canvas that has not been touched yet. Then in the middle, you'll see commands. So motion for moving, from sound, how it looks, to events. So we start with an event. So when the sprite is clicked, the sprite is a cat. Drag it over here. Then you want it to move. So then you move the block over 10 steps. You can actually change it from 10 to another number. And then if you click, it will demo. And so it moved 50 steps. Then from here, you can tap sound. Drag that it will play the meow sound after it moves 50 steps. So you can see the process is dragging blocks that are already created, and your preview pane is over here. So going back to Code.org that I mentioned before, it is a valuable resource to begin the stages of looking at coding. They have created courses by age level that students can complete tasks, complete lessons based on the age level and where they feel most comfortable. Students are not required to set up a login, but if they do, that account will stay with them all through school. So if they change grade levels, change teachers the following year, it actually stays with them. So let's look at a short little lesson that Code.org provides. By the way, I want to point out Code.org is free for teachers and students, and they provide valuable resources. And for example, they have, and you can see the little PDF in the top right, PDF lessons that are short lessons. You can go very in depth as well, but this is one for the early readers about establishing a vocabulary and talking about the list of steps. This is very helpful as we think of moving eventually to Scratch, that all those blocks became a list of steps to follow to finish a task. And so we start with the vocabulary of algorithm, a list of steps you can follow to finish the task. Then from here, they give you additional items to have the little guy right here move to the apple. So students would draw going over one, up, and then over to the apple. And again, this is step one of getting to where they would get more comfortable with a tool like Scratch. Here's another example. Getting this little guy to the strawberry, move over, down, and across. This is a lesson you could incorporate with students so that they would learn, I want the item to move to the strawberry. Here are the steps that would need to do it. So you're reinforcing the steps to complete a task. So let's take a look at which way is correct for this guy over here to reach the pineapple. Is it A, B, or C? As you can see, it's actually both A and B. B is much more efficient. So you could go up, over, and down. Oops. Up, over, and down. Or across, up, across, and down, showing that there's many different ways to reach the final destination. So let's look at Code.org. I would suggest, after viewing this, going to Code.org, setting up an account. You can sign in with your Google account, which means you put in your Blue Valley credentials if you choose, or you can click sign in. Once you're in, I would suggest starting with course 1 for early readers just to get an idea of how the process works. You can even go deeper into looking at different age levels or groups. All you've got to do is hit try now. You don't even have to log in if you don't want, but I would suggest creating an account so that you can see all the many resources that are provided for teachers. So now that we've discussed just a brief overview of coding, the question we always have is, okay, great, but how do I put this in my classroom? How do I make it work with math, ELA, science, social studies? Where's the time? How does this go? How does it work? And so there are many resources available. First off, I would suggest looking at Hour of Code, December 5th through the 11th. Every year, schools from around the nation participate in activities with Hour of Code. We have a link on our site that gives many resources. Just to introduce it to students, that's a great place to start. If you want to look even more into coding, we've got some additional coding resources, and we're adding more every day as we find new resources for students and teachers. We also have a Tinker tab called Coding tab with many resources, including robots, board games, and such to learn coding. So this can be checked out. You just need to talk to your library media specialist about organizing a time, maybe working with your librarian to incorporate. I also added Jake Lee, a first grade teacher, website because he does a fabulous job of incorporating this into his first grade classroom. And he goes around and he presents, and I actually saw him present this summer at ISTE. And he is using, for this one, the Bebot Challenge, decoding sight words. He utilizes robots as well as apps to incorporate into his curriculum. So HIP's website is a great resource as well to see it in action with a elementary teacher. As I mentioned, more and more resources are being added every day that we find. If you have questions, please know that we are trying to find what can be the next step with coding. That it doesn't have to be standalone, it can be integrated. And so as we look at that, we will add more resources to our site. If you find additional resources, please let us know. And also, if you're trying it out in your classroom, please let us know that as well. We'd love to see it in action.